if everyone were owning what made them them and loving that authenticity and celebrating their zones of genius, their innate gifts, we would be one happier, healthier universe, right? But we live in, a lot of us live in fear. I mean, I think it's a constant journey to step out of limiting beliefs and ego and fear.
Welcome to Share Your Medicine. My name is Mallory Riley. I'm an occupational therapist and strength coach hybrid, here to empower you to create strength and happiness from within. Each week, I will bring on inspiring people to share their soul work, or in other words, share their medicine, to help you discover cool people doing cool things, to motivate you and empower the possibilities of your soul work too. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. Let's do this. Let's be stronger together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of Share Your Medicine. I am here with my great friend, Alex Najarian, today. So Alex is a trainer and nutrition coach based out of New York City. She is the founder of her 12-week signature program, Fuel to Thrive, and her kettlebell group fitness membership, the A-Team. So fun story about Alex is that we met at our Strong First kettlebell cert a couple years ago. And we just realized today that we even did our snatch test by chance right next to each other. So that was a little fun memory. But hey, Alex.
Hi, Mallory. I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks for coming on. So I needed to have Alex on here because one of the reasons why we have clicked so much and why I find Alex so inspiring, not only just to me as a friend, but to all of the coaches that she helps, all the clients that she helps, is because she's a go-getter. And I love go-getters. And she just completely embodies that energy of, this is something that's meaningful to me. This is something that's important to me. This is a change that I see and needs to happen in the world. How am I going to do it? Let's go. Let's bring high energy, high good energy to it, and let's get it done. So I'm really excited to have her on today and so that she can share her stories with you guys. So Alex, I'd love to invite you to share a bit about your past and how is it that you are now in New York City in like your dream apartment in this fantastic relationship with feeling aligned in work. Like, how is it that you are now at this point of empowerment here and now?
Wow. Well, first of all, the way that you colored me just then was beautiful. Thanks for having that view of me because that really made me feel good. So I appreciate you. In terms of how I got to where I am today, gosh, you can only connect the dots looking back. You can't connect the dots looking forward, right? That's a Steve Jobs quote. And how I'm living my life right now, 26 years old in New York City, in Manhattan, as a trainer, nutrition coach, in the process of pivoting to some business coaching, I would never have guessed this path for myself. Giving you a quick-ish overview, when I was a kid, I was just a complete non-athlete. Somewhere around middle school and high school, I just had decided I am bad at sports. I am not going to be athletic. And I just embodied the fact that at the time my hobby and passion and purpose was theater, actually. So never have I ever been on a sports team. Never had I ever even worked out. All through college, I kind of made myself the punchline if anyone ever talked about exercise. And I thought I was going to be an actor. I went to undergraduate at New York University to School of the Arts. I started in a studio that was focused on musical theater, pivoted into screen acting. And what actually initiated my interest for exercise, which is an interesting start to the path, was that I had a couple teachers tell me in order to get roles as an actress, I needed to lose some weight. So that's where it started. And I remember being a really confused consumer on how to make that happen. I just had no knowledge. So I started to approach it in a pretty unhealthy way, pivoting into things like gravitating towards things like silly stuff, right? Like certain fad diets and throwing myself into exhausting HIIT workouts. And then when I found spin class was my first kind of gateway drug into fitness and all that fitness is, because it was just a dark room where I didn't feel judged, and it got to just be fun, right? It got to just be play instead of working towards some kind of end goal. Instead of always focusing on the outcome, I was really, for the first time, enjoying the process. And I actually loved it so much that I became a spin instructor, and I thought it was just going to be kind of my side hobby. Like I thought it was going to be my gig that supported me while I was auditioning to be an actress. But by the time I was getting my diploma at NYU, I was like, I had the fitness bug. I became a instructor at a nearby studio. I started teaching strength. I started teaching HIIT. I then became a trainer at Equinox for a brief period of time. I then pivoted to be an independent trainer. I was working at ClassPass Live for a while, working as a trainer, and my workouts were being streamed internationally. And then I started modeling coaches who I really admired that had deeper strength certs and kettlebell certs. And that's when I really started to embody my own style, is really when I started to go down the kettlebell route. Met you at Strong First, right? And really started to embody my own coaching methods and how I coach my clients. And I also coach them in nutrition. I'm precision nutrition certified. And now the way that I approach health and wellness for my clients is really a holistic mind, body, food connection, so that they're just overall feeling holistically well, whatever that means to them, right? And I use this phrase a lot, helping them have the tools to then own their own version of what healthy means to them, not just putting them into a box of what it has to be for me or what it has to mean to somebody else and following a designated plan and making their life try to fit a plan, but rather, here are the tools, this is the science, now choose, right? Own your healthy, choose it. What do you want to do? What makes you feel good? What lights your cup? What makes you feel good from within and from the outside, so that you can show up as strong and bold in your life as possible? Because at the end of the day, for me, what this all is about is your mind and body being a strong enough foundation that it never holds you back from stepping into what is your birthright, what is a big, powerful, beautiful, purposeful, intentional life. And once you start with loving yourself from within, then you can really step into that. But I think so many people walk around hating the vessel that is their body, that it starts with owning your healthy, and then you can start to own other areas of your life.
Yeah.
That was a long intro. I gave you a lot there.
But it's good. But okay, so you were training in the city, and it was like you were training hours for, money, right?
Mm-hmm, for sure.
But this has always been important to you, right? So like even then, your one-on-one clients, it was always you're working with Alex, we're working on the vessel, we're working on talking about food, all that kind of stuff, right? But then when quarantine happened, you created Fuel to Thrive, which is your community program, and you're giving this transformation, but now to a group of people, and you still do coaching one-on-one, right?
A little bit.
Right. But it's mostly these community programs now. And I really want to talk about that and talk about now you have like these groups of people, and what a cool experience as a coach. And like, I love, me, I love the one-on-one. That's like where I thrive personally, but you have found, being in these groups to be really helpful. And what have you found it has been like the trends of people in the group of things that holds them back or things that really motivate them? Like, have you noticed trends?
I think the biggest trend I've noticed in the past few cohorts is that people initially make the investment in themselves because they think they want some kind of external transformation, right? They think, I'm hiring Alex, I'm joining Fuel to Thrive because I want to lose weight. I want to get strong. It feels external. But I think the biggest thing that I notice once they're inside of the container is the transformation that they're the most proud of in the end is the internal transformation, right? That's where they feel the most changed. And it's a harder thing to advertise when you're talking about the transformation that people will get in the course. But the biggest thing I notice is then when they're talking about their own health, like when I ask them at the end, what were your biggest wins? What were your biggest takeaways? They're kind of like, oh, yeah, and I lost 15 pounds, whatever. But the big thing is this, right? The big thing is that I realize how capable and how empowered I can be, and that owning the way that I show up is a choice, right? And that I have power and control over that, and that it can feel really good rather than my health feeling like it's out of my hands or that it's some big giant guessing game. And that's an internal transformation as opposed to just what their pant size is.
So when you're helping people make these changes, instead of, you teach them how to change externally with building muscle and eating correctly and things like that. But really the mindset behind that, what have you found holds people back from change when they're coming to work with you in the first place?
What holds back people in the beginning, and this is what we start with, right? Before I even start talking about nutrition, before I even start talking about kettlebells and fitness, we start with mindset work. And the first thing that we do is say, let's get all of the limiting beliefs that you have out on paper. And I do this with every single person that I work with because we all have these. I've been talking about them a lot recently. We all have past conditioning and limiting beliefs about what it means to be a certain title, right? So if they think, oh, I want to be healthy, they have an idea of what that means and what comes with that is scary, right? Whether we realize it subconsciously or not. So the first thing we have to realize is that the subconscious runs the show, right? The subconscious, the mindset controls what actions you choose to make every single day, and your actions control your reality. So all of your actions are a vote every single day for, is the reality going to look like this? Oh, and I'm pointing over here, taking a left, or is it going to be to the right? And let's say unhealthy is over here and healthy is to the right. And they have all these past conditioning stories in their subconscious about what it means to be healthy, right? Maybe they think being healthy is really hard. Maybe they think being healthy means not having a social life. Maybe they think that being healthy is a certain size and that they're destined for it not to work because maybe their mom used to be on diets in and out all the time and they saw how much it made her emotional and suffer. So they think that entering a route of health has to come with suffering. Or they've heard other role model women in their life say, this is just how we are. It's not worth changing. Nothing ever changes. So they have a limiting belief about even investing that money because they're like, what if this doesn't work? Or if they have, before they even join the course, maybe they had limiting beliefs of, what if I don't show up for myself? Like, what if I spend this money and I don't trust that I'll take this seriously? I don't trust that I'll follow this path, what if it's too hard? What if I fail? Right? There's so much there before you take the leap and try something new, right? And this can be in any part of your life, right? Entering a new relationship, a new job, putting out any kind of big goal where you think you're going to fail. But definitely in weight loss, there's so much there. So it's like, okay, let's dump it all out on paper first. So then you can start having a conversation with yourself about changing the narrative. Like, okay, you're going to choose to let that go. Being healthy doesn't have to be suffering. Rather, I choose that being healthy is fun and easy and makes me feel energized, right? Being healthy isn't a certain size. Being healthy is showing up for myself every day in a way that makes me feel better, and whatever comes out is what I'm going to be so comfortable with, right? Being healthy, whatever, right? I could go on and on with examples, but it's choosing to get the subconscious out on paper that's holding you back, so then you can choose visually to change the narrative and start changing the story before you even start taking action steps. Because I think sometimes when action steps come first, before a choice to really follow through, that's when we self-sabotage, right? When people run into, take a New Year's resolution as an example. Okay, now I'm going to be healthy. There's no clear definition on what that means. And then they start driving into what they think it should mean. I'm going to work out X amount of days. I'm going to put myself on this restrictive diet without really understanding the why behind the nutrition. And then they have all of these limiting beliefs that are there that they've never addressed, and they fall off, and then they feel like a failure. And then they encourage that story of this is hard, I'm a failure, this is never going to work, right? Because we choose to find evidence in our past conditioning stories. Like we choose to keep seeing life through that lens. So that's why I start with mindset, because it's like, let's get the story out on paper so that you can make the choice that it doesn't have to be your story.
I love how you said too, like, why does it have to be so hard? Because I do think that as, you know, coaches, it's our responsibility to show people that it doesn't have to be hard. I think we have a huge responsibility right now of, you know, you go onto Instagram, and my heart always goes out to like the teenage girl that's like first learning
Totally.
about fitness and health through Instagram, because still, I mean, people like us are trying our hardest, but still you go to the explore page and it's like restrictive mindsets, and it's, oh, I need to do these major hit workouts, or I need a visual six pack in order to have self-worth, you know, whatever it is. But I love how you start with this mindset and how you go through that angle, because it's like, what is really meaningful to that person, owning your own healthy, like you said, and feeling empowered in that, like, you can be healthy, and, you know, if you go to the doctor and literally be healthy and not have a visual six pack, like that, maybe that isn't for you. And because you did the mindset work, maybe you will find that you don't need that. It's okay. Like, you will feel energized and have a higher quality of life, even without thinking that your goal was that six pack. It could,
Right.
you know, it could be, oh, I'm actually just more energized, and now I can like play with my kids more.
100%.
And then life is better.
Right. And it's getting clear on what that is to you. And I think to your point of the six pack, it's just like, oh my gosh, I think people are starting to catch up, that there's so many stories of people that get the six pack abs and they're still so unhappy. And I'm like, this is another exercise that I like to use with my clients, is getting at the root of the why, right? What is the why for the goal? What is the why for the weight loss? What is the why for getting strong? And for losing weight, whatever think your goal is, what is the why? And always at the root, it comes at wanting to feel seen, loved, feel like enough, and feel like you're making the most out of your life, right? That's always what it comes down to, is just feeling like enough and feeling like you can stand in your power. So then it's easy then to, once you see that on paper and do that exercise, it's easy to be like, okay, is just a six pack abs going to help you get there, really? Because how many times have we heard the story of people creating physiques where they step on stage for an insane external body, but internally they're still lack so much confidence and are still so unhappy. And I'm like, great. The point of all of this is that you're happy and confident within yourself. And I am of the camp where I'm like, if you want to lose weight because you're uncomfortable in your body, like, let's do it. But I think that transformation always does need to start from an internal place, or else you're going to get results and still feel the same way, when the point is to feel differently from inside, right? Strength from within. You talk about this stuff all the time too.
Yeah. And then, so I do want to make a connection here too. Yes, you do that with your clients in Fuel to Thrive, and then with the A team, but also I feel like that's a valuable lesson for coaching too. So I'd love for you to share a bit about how you've transformed as a coach, and how you are now, you know, leading all these women. But something that you have talked about to me a lot is finding your zone of genius.
Mm-hmm.
And I get so amped up thinking about this, because I mean, I've vocalized it on this podcast before. I have had many different careers myself, and I always have this battle of, I have so much to give myself, but exactly what platform am I going to give it to? And you have helped me so much with thinking about what is so unique about me and what am I giving myself, and you've helped me so much. So I would love for you to share to I mean, you don't have to be a coach, you could, you know, work in accounting, and this can help you right now. But what is zone of genius, and how do you use that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to talk about this. And I love that you're saying I've helped you discover this for yourself, because you're such a powerhouse, and I know how powerful you are, and it is just about standing in your zone of genius and sharing that light so that other people can get that benefit from you, right? Yeah, so zone of genius, let's talk about it. So I believe that everybody has their innate gifts, right? Everybody is born with innate gifts, and those gifts often light their soul on fire, right? The gifts that we stand in, and it just helps us feel like we are standing in an energy that we are supposed to be, right? And I think that's like a guide to your soul, like, hey, you're on the right path. Keep standing in this power, keep celebrating this zone of genius, keep shining light on this innate gift. So for example, for me, I really like public speaking, right? I really have come to understand that one of my zones of genius and what lights me up and what I think is still guiding me on my purpose and path is that I love to learn, and then I love to absorb and embody what I've learned, and then I love to pass it on to other people, right? I love to public speak and teach that learning into existence for others. And that feels like my zone of genius, so I'm going to keep allowing my life to follow that path, right? And allow my career, especially because as a coach I get to choose what my career is. I'm choosing that for myself and creating my business for myself, that I'm going to highlight those innate gifts so I can keep living in that, right? For another person, maybe it's that they absolutely light up when they can really find the minute differences in helping somebody move better, right? A centimeter of difference in how they're squatting, pulling, pressing, what have you, is completely changing the game in their movement quality, right? Maybe that's what lights them up. Maybe that's their zone of genius as a coach. Maybe it's helping someone have that light bulb moment in something like nutrition and how it's being implemented into their lives, in which case the true coaching is the zone of genius, right? Like the true experience of helping the light bulb go off in another person is that person's zone of genius. And then maybe, outside of the coaching realm, maybe it's something like you are amazing at numbers, right? Like your brain just remembers numbers, you get numbers, you feel like you're in a zone, right? Truly, we all know that feeling when you're in a zone that this is where you're supposed to be. And the more I believe that we spend our life living in our own innate gifts, the more light we have to share, right? And I think so many people put boundaries on what they think their career is supposed to look like, what they think their life is supposed to look like. So we spend a lot of time shutting off our zones of genius and our innate gifts to try to make it look like what other people are doing, because that's the path that they've taken. So like for me, for example, I really didn't love training on the training floor, right? That wasn't my zone of genius to have that hour be with just one other person coaching. I'm like, for me, I love being in front of a crowd. Like I love teaching. I love getting excited and shifting a whole body of people with a certain topic, right? That's my zone of genius. So why would I structure my business, if I'm creating it as a coach, to be a trainer on the training floor? It's not me, and that's okay, right? I want to live in that, because the more we can stand in our innate gifts, again, the more light we share, and then it's helping other people the way that we're supposed to be making impact. Like for you, you've shared with me that it makes you feel so good to have that one-on-one with people rather than group. Like I love group. You love that one-on-one and having that light bulb switch and being exactly what that person needs to help them get that transformation. If that's your zone of genius, then set your business up that way, right? Because the more we try to follow other people's rules, if it's not fitting for us, the more draining it is on our own energy, the more it's dimming our light. And if we're draining and dimming our energy, it's not serving anybody else. Those gifts are there to be shared. So it doesn't serve the rest of the world to dim them. It's like step in your power, step in your light so that you can make that impact for other people.
Right. Isn't it so crazy too to think how when you are letting your vibration get lower like that, I always picture kind of like the devil and the angel on your shoulders. And if you are feeling empowered and in your power and you're feeling lit up, that angel on your shoulder gets a little bigger, right? And that influence gets a little bit more. But when your vibration gets a little bit lower, it's easier to listen to the devil on your shoulder. And even something
Yes.
like competition in this kind of workspace, that competition, little devil on your shoulder, gets a little bit bigger, where it's like there's a handful of kettlebell coaches out there. or people just specializing in that. But even you can be so niche to specialize in kettlebells, but take somebody like you or like me that we have a very similar background in how we've been trained in it. But you use your training for your zone of genius completely different than
Mm-hmm.
how I use my training for my zone of genius.
Yep.
You have these community programs, uh, you know, every week you're on there, and that's like, and it's so funny too, because you talk about these innate gifts, and you started as a performer, and you
Mm-hmm.
come around circles, so the little kid in you is like so happy that you're performing like that every day,
Mm-hmm.
and that you get to do that. Meanwhile, me, I like to do I of course appreciate community, obviously, but I do really like to spend my time one-on-one with people,
Mm-hmm.
and developing those relationships one-on-one. And we do the same thing, but somebody who's looking for the group community, weekly classes and stuff, they'll go to you. Meanwhile, somebody who's like, I need hardcore accountability and motivation, and to like be able to text my coach, they'd come to me, and
Right.
it's just, we're used in different ways because we are both stepping in our own power
Yes.
differently.
And I do kind of want to highlight something you said there about competition too, because I truly believe that competition does not exist for the reasons that you're saying, like for the true honest belief that everyone is different and everyone is special and everybody is unique, and your uniqueness, your you-ness, Y-O-U-ness, is what makes you stand out and different from everybody else. So competition isn't real because there's an abundance of humans that need coaching, that need help, and they're going to migrate towards the people that what they need is being answered in that coach's zone of genius. So if we all just leaned into what makes us unique as coaches, right, more, we would realize competition isn't real. It doesn't matter if you're swinging a kettlebell and I'm swinging a kettlebell. We're two different people, and so we're going to help two different clients, and it's amazing. Thank God we get to do that, and thank God those clients have a choice with who they resonate more, because if we were all carbon copies of the same thing, it would be so boring.
I love how you phrase that too, but how I get to do that, because that's something that once you do step into that zone of genius and you do realize, so these are my gifts that are innate to me, that I get to do, well, I get to be me, and I get to help people, or have this like job that I really love because I get to be myself.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty too of what's happening in the fitness industry, where all of these coaches are creating their own businesses so easily online, because, and I do feel such a, a draw to keep going down that path of helping other coaches create their own businesses, because I do think that's where coaches get to really shine, is when they can stand in that power. Because when you are just a branded coach at a gym per se, right? You're fitting what that gym wants you to do, and you're coloring within those lines, right? If you're working at Crunch, if you're working at Equinox, it's like you do a session, they pay per session, the session's over, fine. If that's where you thrive, fine. But for the coaches that turn within themselves and they say, no, I have an angle on this. I always say, what's your thesis on what everyone's talking about? Everyone's talking about fitness. Everybody's talking about kettlebells. Everybody's talking about nutrition. Everybody's talking about mindset. Everybody's talking about those, about health. But what is you, the coach's individual angle? What is your thesis on the topic? And make your programs and your content and the way that you're changing your clients' lives through that lens and through your zone of genius, so you get to really shine. Because again, like I talked about, I mentioned that I was a trainer at Equinox, and for me it was just it wasn't standing in my zone of genius, so it was a daily drain. It was a daily drain, whereas now I've created a business that lights me up, right? I get excited to show up on my calls because I love I'm teaching exactly how I want to teach. I'm teaching what I want to teach because it's through my zone of genius and my thesis, my angle on the subject, right? My angle is that what this is all about is you being able to step into your power in other areas of your life. Let's establish your health first, because that's the foundation of your energy for how you show up. But we've talked about this. For me, I personally don't care if I ever do a Turkish getup with a 36 kg. I literally said that to Mallory earlier. I'm like, I personally, it's not my why, right? Go back to my why. I'm like, for me, if I started really training to have a 36 kg getup at this point in my life, it would be from a place of competition. It would be like an ego thing. Like for me and my why and my thesis on the point of my purpose for why I coach, it's like I just have I have a standard for strength, for quality of life. I have a standard for it, and I think it's very important to implement into your practice for health. And here's, X, Y, and Z reasons why, but I don't need to do a 350-pound deadlift. So that's my angle, and that's fine if that's not right for you. Like strength is so important for you, and like that's what is a special thing that makes you and me different, and that's cool. Like I celebrate your zone of genius. I want you to succeed in your message, and the people that migrate to your message are going to migrate to your message.
Because I've shared this too, that the last couple of months I kind of questioned even myself of,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, do I need to be this strong? And I
Right.
stopped and I was like, I'm going to stop even letting people know what I'm lifting or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stopped and I was like, you know what? That's not how I show up though. That's not the path that's meant for me. I'm meant to share all these things and to be an example of, oh, this is some like 5'2" chick with like really tiny hands and she can do this stuff, and that is part of what I'm supposed to give.
Yeah.
And like we all have to step into how is the universe expecting me to show up? Because really, we have a big problem, big picture here. There are a lot of people that are really sick and sad and overweight
Yeah.
and hurt, and we have work to do. So
Yeah.
all of our different missions, where they have to happen, and you have to be your best self. Like you have to be Alex, you have to be
Yeah.
in your zone of genius in order, even if you just help just a handful of people, you've helped a handful of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what needs to be happening right now. Like the world can't keep going on like this. I think there's a lot of other problems that stem from people not owning their healthy.
Yeah. You can say that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like down to we won't get into it, but down to like politic problems, issues that you're having in your family. Like imagine if you just showed up every day as your best self and really felt that. Would you be fighting with your family the way that you do? Would you be
Right.
fighting with strangers on the internet the way you do? Would, if kids knew about this more, if there was a teenager that knew how to own their healthy young, will that teenager be bullying someone else?
Right.
If there was somebody who's autistic, if they felt like they could own their traits and who they
Mm-hmm.
are,
Yep.
would they struggle as much? And then on the flip side, for a neurotypical person, if they saw that person, would they be like, oh wow, look at that person owning themselves? That brain is needed on this planet,
Mm-hmm.
just like my brain and is needed on this planet.
Yeah.
And these kind of programs, that's what helps people step into that. So I'm so happy that you're on here talking about it and owning your healthy like that, and that you're changing so many lives like that, because that's the change that needs to be happening right now.
Thanks, Mel. I also think too, like what you were saying about would people behave negatively if they could feel like they owned their healthy? And I think that is why I believe it is everybody's birthright and responsibility to step into their authenticity, light, zone of genius, right? Because once all of those negative emotions that people do and project are coming from a place of fear and scarcity, right? Anger, bitterness, these sort of low vibe energies, and we know that energy is contagious. It's coming from that person being frustrated with not standing in what makes them happy, right? Feeling like life is draining them all the time, and so they initiate these low vibe energies that then other people receive. But if everyone gave themselves the responsibility and permission without guilt, right? I think so many people feel guilt, like, who am I to shine so bright, right? Who am I to love my job? Who am I to make my business work for me? I only work enough hours that I'm completely filling up my cup. I'm eating fueling foods. I'm getting enough sleep. I love my environment. I love the people I hang out with. I love my relationship. Who am I to have that much success? Like, there's a guilt, right? That's a limiting belief. But the reality is, I believe it's our responsibility to step into that light, because then if everyone were to do that, we would all be putting out light all the time and love and these high vibrations, and it only serves other people, right? If everyone were owning what made them them, and like loving that authenticity and celebrating their zones of genius, their innate gifts, we would be one happier, healthier universe, right? But we live in, a lot of us live in fear. I mean, I think it's a constant journey to step out of limiting beliefs and ego and fear.
Yeah. And if it's something that aligns with you, like own that you are a fourth grade school teacher. Own that. We need you. Own that
Right.
you're an awesome massage therapist. Own that you are an accountant. We need you.
Yep.
And really stepping into that and owning it, and then making sure that you are healthy in and out so you could continue rocking on.
Mm-hmm. You bet.
And then I do want to say too, we've had these conversations before about, we have high vibrations and we have our low vibrations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a spectrum. And I do come from the school of thought that I do appreciate the low vibe for its educational purpose. So I do appreciate those feelings, because I think that if you can go that low, you could also go that high.
Mm.
And the person that has been that low and has felt that fear is also able to, when they overcome it, feel even more elated because they did. So I just want to say with all this, like, it's not all about being high vibe all the time. It's
Right.
okay to get low, but you need to have the tools and that empowerment to get out of that.
Yeah,
You
and
can't be
and the
there all the
tools
time.
to be able to reflect and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
because it's like feedback, right? Feeling low vibes, feeling like you failed at something is just feedback, right? And it's just an obstacle to make the story more interesting too. So if if you're a coach and you're on your purpose and you're like, this lights me up, but the first time you put something out that you feel really excited about, it doesn't go well, that's also not a message to say, okay, just stop, this isn't for you, right? That's the universe testing you and saying, do you really want this? Can you take some feedback and stand in your zone of genius even more? Can you turn inward even more and ask yourself, what was out of alignment? What can we get even clearer on and make even better to make it feel even better the next time? I mean, I don't know if you're okay with me saying this, but even with Strength from Within, you're taking a little break from it,
Yeah.
because you're giving yourself the space to say, how can I get even more effortlessly aligned with what this is, right? How can this be even more Mallory before I put it out into the world? And I did that with Feel to Thrive too. After a few rounds, I'm like, how can I get myself to be even more excited about this? Because if we can get so aligned and excited about it, the rest of the world will. And if rounds previously felt like they weren't as good as they could be for whatever reason, like, that's just feedback, and everything's never as good as it can be, right? It can always get better.
Yeah. I love that you're phrasing it as feedback, because that's something that, so coaches listening, or, even you think about pain, right? Somebody's in pain, and a lot of times pain is it's a warning system. It's an alert system it's like, oh, I'm feeling this pain in my knee. There's something I have to pay attention to here, whether it's
Yes.
how you're moving or whatever it may be. There's something happening. Pay attention to this for a
Yes.
second and change something, adapt something. And that's how all these emotions are the same way. Sometimes when you're having that fear, and like you said, that drill of writing out your limiting beliefs, because that's fear. And that's fear. Once you recognize it and you're able to be like, oh, this is happening, you're able to be like, oh, okay, what's the warning system here? What do I have to adapt right now to change that?
Right.
Yeah. And so writing down those limiting beliefs, it's a hard drill. You guys all right now, write it down that you're going to do that at some point. Write down your limiting beliefs.
Yeah,
What's holding you back?
I mean, it's a hard drill because it can be in all areas of life, right? It can be money limiting beliefs, it can be relationship beliefs, it can be health, body image, it can, everything, right? how you spend your time, right? I have a huge limiting belief that I'm still working on, that my value comes from hustle, and the harder I work, the more successful I am. And I'm like, that's a story that doesn't serve me anymore. I want to rewrite that story, that instead of the more hustle, the more value I have, right? I'm like, I choose to let that go. I choose to write that my value is decided from within myself, not how hard I hustle. And also that it's not the more I hustle, the more money I make, but rather the higher my energy, the more money I make, the more I help change people's lives, because that switch is so much more grounded for me. Then the focus becomes not how hard must I grind, but rather how much can I take care of my own energy, that then the better coach I become, the more impact I can make with my clients, the more money I make, the more success I have, you know? So, I mean, these limiting beliefs could be pages long.
So can you share, like, how do you get yourself into that high vibe? Like, what are some routines that you have daily? So somebody that's like just getting into this, like, what are things that they can do every day to help them start stepping into their power?
I think everyone just needs to give themselves space to do whatever fills their cup. So things that don't feel draining, but that feel energizing to you. And I think it's different for every person. But like, for me, I check in with myself, and I'm like, okay, what if there's clutter around, it's cluttering my mind. So making sure that like my bed is made, the dishes are put in the dishwasher, like that there's not junk everywhere, like having a clean space, giving myself time to breathe. And I just listen, right? I say like, oh, have a morning routine, but I just listen to what I need. Is it journaling? Is it card pooling? Is it just meditating for 5 minutes and breathing? Is it literally just staring into space and being quiet and just noticing what's around me, like a meditation that isn't guided, but is just like sitting in my own stillness? Or is it playing, right? What else is a high vibe energy? Is being around other people, right? Energy is contagious, and we calibrate to people's energy. So I'm like, I want to be around other people that make me feel like excited and playful and happy and loved. And I put very hard boundaries around people that drain my energy, and I get clear on who that is in my life. So then the friends that raise my vibration, or other coaches that raise my vibration, I either choose those friends to just play with and spend time playing, and coaches that challenge me to raise my vibration to a higher standard, I pay them, I hire them. I've spent thousands of dollars on mentorship, thousands, and I will continue to do that. And whoever just heard that and was triggered by that, like, who are you to spend thousands of dollars on mentorship? I invite you to do the work, because if you want to do that one day too, you can, right? When I invested in my first business coach, it was at the start of COVID-19. And prior to that, I had spent lots of money on just trainers to help me get to where I am today, and certifications and things like that. But it was the first time I ever spent $5,000 on a business coach. And I did not have a lot of money in the bank. I had just lost my job. It was the start of COVID. I obviously just lost my job as a trainer. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I thought, in order to not feel stuck anymore, in order to stop just meandering around and being low vibe of, oh, I just lost my job, let me calibrate to an energy that has a solution, right? That has been in my problem before, and she's gotten out of it, and she's going to help me get out of it too. I'm like, if you have to pay for that, fine. But I think it is just about, again, just knowing what gives you energy and knowing what doesn't, and making space every day for the activities that give you energy. If it's learning, if it's reading, if it's listening to a podcast, being in nature, taking a walk outside, eating healthy foods, if it's working out, right? Having your non-negotiables of like, I have to take care of myself every day, because you can't pour from an empty cup. Mm-hmm. And then beyond that, finding the things that light your soul on fire, like just being social and playing and calibrating to higher energy. Yeah.
Calibrating to higher energy is so important. So important. And I'm so bad with like actual quotes and who said the quotes, but you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. Is like that famous quote.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally though.
Yeah, but totally. And even if you're listening and you're somebody that just wants to, lose weight or get physically healthier, you're going to hire a coach that's physically healthy, because you want that. Mm-hmm. So you're going to surround yourself with somebody who does that.
Yeah. Who lives in that standard for themselves. I'm like, that's part of the transformation, is hiring the coach. It's not just like, we're not meant to do it alone, right? If people have some kind of weight loss, get strong, transformational health goal, don't try to do it by yourself. Find the person who's living in their non-negotiables, who's living in their standard. And just by being around them, and you're going to calibrate to their standards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. We talk about future casting all the time, like stepping into the identity of the person that you want to become. So I always say, if you can visualize a vision for yourself, then that vision is meant for you. Then it's inside of you. It's meant for you. And you just have to uncover a life that's going to allow you to have it, and get rid of the limiting beliefs that are holding you back from getting it. So I almost forgot where I was going with this train of thought, but
Future casting.
yeah. Oh yeah. Future casting. Thank you. So if you can see that vision inside of you and say, okay, in my dream world of who I am and what my life looks like, this is what it is. Get that visualization down on paper, and then just start stepping into that person. Ask yourself, who do I have to become? Who do I need to get around? What do I need to do? How am I going to make this happen? Like, what space do I need to create in my life to add these new action steps? When is it going to start, right? Hopefully now. Don't wait. Ready is a lie. Why? Get really deep rooted in your why, right? Usually it comes down to, we have one life and you want to make the most of it and not live in fear and live in your boldness. That usually becomes a very strong why. And then start to step into the action steps that will make you that person. If you can visualize the person that is, $1 million business owner and lives on the beach and loves their life and adores their spouse and has this amazing connected relationship and loves their friends. Okay, then I am a person who, start naming things. I am a person who has a really healthy relationship with money. I am a person who has invested in coaches and done the work around getting healthy and knowing how to use a kettlebell and getting strong. I'm a person who has invested in learning about nutrition so that I can manage it and have a healthy relationship with my food. I am a person who again, like, fill in the blank. But then when you start stepping into those actions, right? When you start stepping into those actions, your actions create your reality, and then you become responsible for an even bigger and bolder reality than you had.
And you could start small with that. So I'm trying to even just think of listeners that I know that are on here, but like, you're an OT student, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am somebody who passes my boards. I pass my boards. That's not my person. What do you have to do right now to be that person who passes your boards? I have shoulder pain. All right. So you're somebody with a hurt shoulder right now. What do you have to do? What do you have to be the person that doesn't identify with the hurt shoulder?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't
Yeah.
keep growing, visualize those big things, but you can start small until you start realizing, wow, I am so powerful with
Right.
my thoughts.
Yes.
And they do see my actions. Okay. I want to live on the beach with a sexy husband.
Right.
I can manifest that too.
Totally. 100%. And I love that you use the example of pain, because people that just choose to be like, yeah, I have shoulder pain, and do nothing about it. I'm like, okay, look, what are the steps to get you pain free? Does the person who had a shoulder injury and becomes pain free, do they invest in a physical therapist that they're really, or any kind of therapist that they're really excited to rehab with and gain strength again and be strong and start being active? It's like, then stop living in a disempowered way and start making the steps that are scary, right? It's scary. I get it. When you're investing time and money and taking risk, like, there is that thing of failure, but like, you're just failing forward. Who cares? Get over it, right? Like, keep putting yourself out there in situations that you get to learn from. It's exciting, and then step into that powerful version of yourself.
Yeah. Even, I mean, this is a little, but I just had like this visualization of like somebody that goes to their family barbecue, and you have that person that, everything is about their knee and their knee pain and what surgery you're going to try now and what are you going to try now. And like, it feels low vibe, right?
Right.
Like, do you want to show up to your dinner party, or your barbecue,
Being
whatever,
that
your
person.
family barbecue, being the person that yet again is talking about your hurt knee? Or do you want to be the one that shows up saying, yeah, you know what? I am taking all these steps, and I am working mentally on how to fix my knee. And I'm actually taking the steps to hire the therapist, or
Right.
the coach, whatever, to help me get over this. And then now at the dinner party, that's the story you're telling. And then
Totally.
And then you bring up the whole vibe of the dinner party.
Totally. Like, and I
Barbecue.
think of the person, because this is the client that I work with a lot. If you're the person listening to this podcast, and I know a lot of coaches listen to Mallory's podcast, so this might not be who's listening, but if you're the person that's like been talking about how the extra 15 pounds that's hanging on their body has been bothering them for years. I mean, like, I adore my mother, but this has been my mother for years. Like, oh, if I could just get rid of these last 10 pounds. And I'm like, it's your choice. You're either going to take the steps to do it or you're not. You know what I mean? But I don't want to hear about how you're not changing anything to do it. Nothing changes if nothing changes, right? That's the end of storied period. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So like, it's okay, like you're saying, to have these like low vibe moments, sit in them, acknowledge them. Why are they happening? Right. And then like pretty immediately start to work yourself out of them, because I just have no time. I put a harsh boundary around people that are constantly living in I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish, right? Let's language reframe. Let's turn I wish to how can I very quickly. I wish into how can I, because when there's a will, there's a way. There's always a way. Figure it out. Find the resources, make it happen. Get around the people who are doing it, calibrate to their energy. Like, you have everything inside of you that you need. So like, go do it.
Yeah, you have everything inside of you that you need.
Yeah.
Everything inside of you that you need. That's like a very important thing that I think people have to be comfortable with. You have it. Yeah, maybe you have to learn a little bit more. Maybe you need education. Maybe you need to hire someone. But you right now are perfect as you are. Keep going. So important. I would love to hear too. What is your future casting right now? Give an example so that I love when people dream big, and I know you're a big dreamer. So right now, I would love, if you feel comfortable, for you to share your future casting.
Yeah, look, you're putting me on the spot. I love it.
Yeah.
Making me take a dose of my own medicine.
Take a dose of your own medicine, say it on a podcast, and we can listen to it a year from now.
So I've come to this space with myself where sometimes trying to get too clear on my visualizations can make me try to fit myself into a certain title and I'm not sure what that title is. And I was actually having a conversation with Mallory last night, actually. We're buddies, in case you didn't know. So we were out to dinner, but it was that for so long I've been able to future cast to a place where I can see other people are already there. So then I can model the people that are doing it, right? If there was a female kettlebell coach I admired, I would model her steps. If there was a business coach I admired, I would model her steps and calibrate to her energy. But I'm just getting to a point where I don't know if the vision that I have for myself is out there in another human yet. So I'm just choosing to show up as the leader in my zone of genius and letting that take me wherever it takes me, and not stressing too hard about what exactly that looks like. So I'll tell you that, yes, do I see myself having a thriving business where I'm helping coaches and clients, and I'm living a life of freedom and abundance, and I am around action takers and thinkers and leaders in the space, and those are where I am having friendships and where I'm spending a lot of my time, and I spend a lot of time in my nature, like in nature. Yes, and I spent a lot of time giving myself space to continue to learn, digest, so that I can pass it on, giving myself space to give myself a lot of time to have energy and fill my own cup, because I've decided that my story is the more energy I have, the better I can help others and the more impact that I can make. I've chosen for that to be my story. But in terms of what exactly the visualization is beyond like the specificity of all that, all I know is that I'm going to keep helping people step into their power through bulletproof mindset, right? Crushing limiting beliefs, through optimizing their nutrition, their health, their stress management, their sleep, their strength. And then also helping coaches create businesses that they dream of, right? I feel myself stepping into a leadership position where I'm like, if there's other coaches out there that want to live in their innate gifts and live in their zone of genius and spread their angle on whatever their title is, trainer, dietitian, whatever, that they can do that in a way that is allowing them to live in their life of their dreams. And I'm going to do all of it. And it's exciting. And I don't know exactly what it looks like, but you're right. I'm putting it out into the universe that's what I'm doing now.
That is. And then This is the note that I want to end on. And this is something that I've been asking every podcast so far. And it's fun asking you too, because you have talked about modeling other people.
Hmm.
And right now there are definitely people listening that are like, oh, I'm going to model Alex, like this is
We'll see.
where I am,
Maybe.
or I am. Maybe they don't even realize it, but they are like, they can look at other people, other coaches, and like, oh, like I am like kind of modeling that.
Hmm.
So I would love for you to give advice to a younger version of you. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be that person that's modeling you. Maybe that'll happen. It could be you at 5 years old, and it's helpful for you right now to give loving advice, give a hug to a younger version of you, and give that younger version a piece of advice.
I would say stress less, be present more. Live in the now, have more fun playing and enjoying yourself and the process. I think I can get a little, personally, I can get a little too caught up in what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next, because as you described me at the beginning, I can be a bit of an action taker, and I'm always thinking what's next, what's next, what's the next action. And the only time that we have is the now, right? The only time we truly have is the present moment. And so I think something I'm still working on, and I would tell my past self, is stop stressing about the next step, because everything that's happening to you is happening for you. Like, you won't be able to connect the dots looking forward, but you will be able to connect them looking back, and just trust it and live and keep celebrating, keep playing, keep laughing, keep loving, and putting your gifts out there, and everything's going to work out.
That's pretty darn good. I love it. Well, thank you, Alex. Okay, so where could everyone find you?
I hang out on Instagram a lot, so you can definitely find me there. It's
What's
just
your handle?
it's at Alex Najarian. It's just my name, AlexNajarian. And that's a great place to find me. And slide into my DMs. I love talking to people about where they are in their journey. So if you had a takeaway from this conversation, I would love to hear what it was, so that I can hear about it, because that's the biggest gift that I could receive.
Yeah, and guys, I say it in the outro, but I'm going to say it again here. Please share this message with somebody. Please write a review. That's how, apparently, I mean, I'm still new to this space. Apparently, that's how, the algorithms work, so it could be found. So if you guys could share it, write a review. I'm pretty sure you could only write reviews on Apple. I still have to look into all this stuff. I'm learning as I go. But if you guys can do that, that'll be great. Slide into Alex's DM. She just gave you permission. Send her a voice memo. We love voice memos. Let's normalize the voice memo.
Save the thumbs.
Save the thumbs. Yes, please. And yeah, all right, cool. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, Mel.
Thank you for sharing your time with me today on the Share Your Medicine podcast. If you enjoyed and if this episode helped you, please share it with a friend, share it on your Instagram, and make sure to tag me to say hello. It will help the Share Your Medicine podcast grow, connecting more people to their soul tribes. Also, leave a review if you feel so moved. Tell me honestly what you think and what you would like to hear more of. Thank you, enjoy your day, and as always, if you think strong, if you act strong, you are strong.